Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel. So, I believe we are living in a renaissance of wargaming, okay, a rebirth. A fundamental change is happening right now. Games Workshop's wargaming community is either stagnating or shrinking. Oh, but profits. Do you know they make so many profits? Half their profits come from licensing alone. Okay? Soon that's going to overrun the wargaming side of things. So no. We cannot. You cannot use Warhammer and Games Workshop anymore because of their licensing part and how much money that makes. Okay, I agree with Northern Exile here. I should say that they could end up becoming a IP company rather than a wargaming company. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of that, but I can see it happening because of how much money that brings in. And it's not uncommon for companies to change, especially companies that are 30, 40 years old. It happens a lot. Nintendo used to make playing cards and taxis and hotels. I'm not even joking, right? Just look it up. And they've changed to video games, and they've maintained that. Sega went from consoles. Once consoles were no longer profitable, they went just to be making video games. Things and companies change all the time. It's not uncommon. And I think what really shows this renaissance and this big change that's happening in wargaming as a whole is just how many people are leaving Warhammer and Games Workshop to smaller companies. It is, I can name, let's think, we have Judge Dredd, Gav Thorpe, we have Kings of War, Alessio Calvator, we have Armored Clash, James Hewlett. So, dude, I'm mispronouncing your name here, okay? I think Gav Thorpe also worked on Conflict 47. I know there was another GW person on that as well. And, of course, you have the dude from Mordheim working on Trench Crusade. So that's 5 games where people went from Games Workshop to smaller companies. 10 years ago, well, even longer than that, actually. I would say 10 years ago, it would have been the other way around. These smaller companies would have lost their employees to Games Workshop. We are now seeing it the other way around. Games Workshop are losing employees to the smaller companies. Now, this is a good thing as wargaming as a whole. I know a lot of people don't think it, but it is, because it shows there is more competition there. There is a bigger need for wargaming and diversity within it. Okay, before anyone loses their head about the fact I said diversity, I meant diversity of thought and games, not anything else. That's when I say diversity, that's what I mean. Anyway, you know someone's going to be upset by that and just click off the video because I said diversity. Silly people. Anyway, point being, it's a good thing. But now not only are we seeing these rule makers making better games than Games Workshop have made in a long time. Armored Clash, fantastic game. I really do enjoy playing the game. I don't like the scale. I don't think that's anything controversial to say. I have a preference when it comes to game scale. And of course, it's 28mm, and the game type I like is skirmish games. I have a preference. I'm not a big fan of, epic scale games. It's a preference. But the game is a lot of fun. It's really good. And that was worked on by James Hewlett. Sorry, dude, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. And I do apologize. Hewlett. I can't remember. And probably got that completely wrong anyway. And he moved from Games Workshop to Warcradle to make this game. Gav Thorpe is a big name in GW, and to see him work on Judge Dredd and do a fantastic game for that. Again, it's a big thing for, as much as I do not like his novels, and I will never say anything good about his novels. I don't hate the man. I have no issue with him. I just don't like his books. But his rule writing is phenomenal, and I like it. Judge Dredd is a very good game. Alessio Calvator is a icon of wargaming on what he did with Warhammer Fantasy Battles. He made the best games. Now working, and previously worked on Kings of War as well, and then working on the new edition, or worked on the new edition. Past tense and all that nonsense. So all of this is happening right now in wargaming, and it's showing how much wargaming as a hobby is growing. Now, that, like I said, is good, because it shows people are finding wargaming, and then they're finding their little niche that they enjoy. You know, I love Wild West Exodus. It's my favorite game. Honestly, I've got to put my Wild West Exodus to one side if I get anything else, because I know I will just put everything else to the side, just completely tear through all my Wild West Exodus models and paint them and build them before I even touch anything else. So I've got to put them aside, like leaving your favourite bit of a meal at the end just so you can enjoy it more. That's what I do with Wild West Exodus. I have no pile of shame, they're all built, and I'm working on my Pride of Necromata right now. I've just finished my Armored Justice posse. Now I'm working on my Pride of Necromata. Once I finish that, probably work on some Forge Fathers or Thousand Suns or something else. But then I'll work back on Wild West Exodus. It's just the way I do things. As I was saying, and that's just the rule side. Now, when we come to the novel side, the lore side, we are now seeing other people from Games Workshop leaving as well. Sarah Corkwell wrote Valkyr for Warhammer Fantasy Battles. It's a fantastic book. It's well worth reading. Though she wrote Lazarus for Wild West Exodus. And she's a big Doc Holliday fan. And she's written so many small vignettes for Wild West Exodus. One of the best ones is basically a conversation between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday on why Doc Holliday got upset about losing his mustache. It sounds weird, but I actually quite enjoyed it. It was quite interesting to see, you know, this conversation happening, and Wyatt Earp made that choice so Doc Holliday could live with his tuberculosis, using the signs from the Enlightened. It's a very emotional story. It's very well written, and it's really good, and it's well worth reading. And like I said, she wrote an entire story about Valkyr, cementing her legacy within the Warhammer Fantasy Battles on the origins and the story of Valkyr, one of the biggest players within Khorne. C.L. Werner worked on the War of Vengeance series. Again, another really good book, good trilogy of books. Again, cementing some foundational parts of the Warhammer Fantasy Battles series, setting I should say. And Josh Reynolds, these are the three I'm mentioning because these are the three I can actually say off my top of head, have made a lot of changes. Worked on a lot of Tyranid stuff and a lot of other books. And now, all three of those have moved from Games Workshop to smaller companies. Josh Reynolds, C.L. Werner, I'm sorry, I do not know where your name comes from. Sorry, I apologise. Are working at Mantic now. C.L. Werner is working on this Zir-Kalin origins and lore, and some of it looks really cool and it looks really interesting. I really like the lore of Zir-Kalin. I think it's really interesting, and he's doing some good work there, and I'm really happy about it. Josh Reynolds has a new novel coming out for Kings of War that's been released with 4th edition, and it gets me excited more for Mantic because of knowing these writers previously for Games Workshop and knowing how good they are, and it's something that I would be interested in reading for Mantic now. Now, I need to add a bit of a disclaimer. I really do not bother or worry about the personal lives of authors. I use their name as a seal of quality. If I see Josh Reynolds, I say I like his books. I will probably enjoy his books. C.L. Werner, I like his books. I'll probably enjoy what he writes. Same with Sarah Corkwell and everything else. So, having these writers leave Games Workshop to other companies, smaller companies, is an interesting thing. It's showing how much wargaming is growing as a hobby, and I think this is absolutely fantastic. I know people may say, well, at least Games Workshop still has Dan Abnett. Dan Abnett will work for anyone who hires him. And I am not joking. I'm not saying he's bad, okay? He's very adaptable. He can add a lot to universes, and he has. Those who played the PlayStation 3 with Resistance, he worked on the first issue of a Resistance graphic novel. That's just one, okay? He's worked for Marvel. He's the reason, Groot says, I am Groot. He is literally the reason for that. He created that part. He's worked on Aquaman for DC. It's a good story. Never diss Aquaman. Aquaman is completely underrated. I haven't read these, by the way, these next two. He's worked on Doctor Who, and he's worked on Planet of the Apes. And I know he's worked on others as well. But the ones I've read, so it shows that he does have the capability of working on many different companies and many different icons and stories and settings. So Dan Abnett isn't really a point that Games Workshop still has him. They have him as long as they pay him. He's sort of mercenary. He's a mercenary freelancer. He will work for the highest bidder. This is all hyperbole, but you get what I mean. Okay? So, what does this mean in the future and why? Now, I think I'll cover why. Now, why is... I wouldn't say I cannot actually say why, but I have an idea on why. I think it's because in the last 5 years or so, we have seen so many fundamental changes within the 40k setting, within the Horus Heresy setting, within the Warhammer Fantasy Battle setting, that it could turn writers off from adding anything new. Because if you add something groundbreaking and foundational towards the lore and the setting, it's not guaranteed to be a mainstay. It can leave, it can change. You know, people can come back to life and stuff like that. Like, this is a fantasy and sci-fi settings, and those who read comics pretty much know death is a revolving door within these settings. Okay? Very few deaths are permanent. Look at Khan the Betrayer. Khan has died twice, I would say. He literally was run over by a Land Raven and was completely impaled. And then it was at the Walls of Terror, where he was absolutely butchered. Lucius the Eternal just never dies. Horus has come back as a clone. Fulgrim has come back as a clone. Ferrus Manus has come back as a clone several times. You see, within these settings, death is a revolving door. So, just because someone's dead in lore doesn't mean they're dead forever. And then, if the foundational part, and we're not talking like the characters, we're talking about foundational parts are changed, so you might add something as a creator and then have it completely reversed for no reason at all. Like, we'll take the Custodes, for example. Right, because I'm using the female Custodes, people are going to get upset, so I'm going to kind of preface this with this statement. When it comes to other IPs, other people's IPs, I do not care. I am completely apathetic. They can do what they want with it. As long as it's good, I do not care. It's the quality that I worry about, nothing else. I read all my books in a vacuum, and I judge it on its own basis. I do not judge it as part of a series, and it doesn't matter what part of the series is, I will judge each one separately. Okay, now without that said, I can understand why people got upset about female Custodes. It was a fundamental change in the lore. Okay, I can understand that. And it seemed like an unnecessary change for no reason. Okay? There was no... Same with these so-called... Like, I know I've got to say so-called here. This is alleged because GW hasn't said anything about it. Female heads for Space Marines. Are they sneaking in female space? Again, the models look like... The heads look awful. Why would you ever use GW heads on Space Marines anyway? They always look bad. So, again... I don't care that they're female. I care that they're bad, right? But, you know, if you're a creator and you had a fundamental part of the lore, or for a character only to have it overturned, it can dissuade people from continuing or even joining writing for that setting. Now, if they're joining a new setting or, you know, an upcoming setting, I know Kings of War isn't new, I know Warburst Exodus aren't new, I know Dystopian Age isn't new and all that, but they are, you know, growing in size. I can see why you'd want to be part of that, because you have name recognition, you have a decent history on quality, and you can see why people would want to add to this. Because now they can add, you know, fundamental parts of his lore, which has never been sort of addressed before, because there's never been the audience there to address. Look, I'm not saying the games are bad. I'm just saying the audience has never been there. Now the audience is there because they're moving away from Games Workshop and finding better games and enjoying them more, which is great. Always a good thing. They want to be part of this renaissance within the wargaming community. Adding their own ideas into it while remaining solid to the setting itself. Sarah Corcoran wrote an amazing book of Lazarus. It doesn't feel out of place to Wildest Exodus. The book by C.L. Werner, I have this up here, so if I can remember what it's called. Sorry, you're just going to hear my laptop going beep, beep, beep. And it's a really good book. I actually only downloaded it, so I never got a chance to read The Rise of the Celestians. There you go. I've only read it a couple of times, so I kind of forget things like that. It's a good book. It's interesting. It's enjoyable. I don't really comment on books that much unless I've read them like 5 or 6 times. And before you say, that's a bit much. Yeah, I read a novel a day. Right? I that's me. So he's already added some really good stuff within the Kings of War setting. So him writing lore for Vizier Kali sounds really cool. And I want to see if he writes a novel. If he writes a novel for Vizier Kali, I will buy it. And it has to be paperback, Mantic. I'm not downloading it anymore. I can't. I find it horrible to read downloaded books, right? And so we're seeing that. And same with Josh Reynolds, right? Having this reason to do it. Now, what does it mean? Now, here's the thing. The biggest problem I've seen facing Games Workshop right now is the original foundations for 40k, original foundations for Warhammer and Fantasy Battles, original foundations for Horus Heresy, all of that used to be pretty rock solid. It is now it's sand. The foundations are made out of sand. And if you have no fervent foundation for your setting, it's just going to crumble. And it feels like a lot of those stories are now written by committee rather than single people. I know a lot of people complained about the War of the Beast being that way. And yeah, it is. It doesn't really add up. I have no issues with that because each person is writing their book without additional people butting in and putting their 2 cents into it. You know, each writer is given their work and they are doing it. It may seem a little bit hodgepodge at times, which is fine. Like Perturabo and his entire story is up and down at the best of times. But it does feel like each book is written by one person. Now we're getting these books which are written by committees, and you can definitely see it. At this point, AI might just be the better option for Games Workshop. If they're not doing it already. Anyway, so... And it also means a lot of people are going to start leaving as well because the lore isn't as strong as it should be. Has no foundational basis on how to continue. It's becoming so fluid that nothing is plausible, but everything is. This is not a good statement. And using, this, what's it called? Unreliable narrator as your argument. Oh, it's unreliable. No, that's not a good one. Okay? It only works if a story allows it to work. And that's it. So, here's the thing. Wargaming is facing a renaissance. And when renaissances happen, the old die. And it's always going to be that way. If you look at the renaissance of the Marvel and DC comics, you saw a lot of the old ways of the heroes being never dying, always winning, never losing, to the darkest stories of the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, to suddenly they are now dying, they can lose. The old ways had to die for that to happen. And it's the same with Wargaming. The old ways are going to have to die. Games Workshop's going to have to finally die off or become so small that it just is equal competition for everyone else. Then it will become a nice, booming place for people to enjoy wargaming. And it'll be a free flow of ideas. And it'll be great. With that said, I'm actually interested to see the future of wargaming now. It's becoming incredibly interesting. And we're seeing so much happening. It's phenomenal. I'm excited, to be honest with you. I really am. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're having a good day, and I hope to see you in the next one. I will catch you in the next video. And I'll see you then. If you want to get Lazarus, the book is down below in Wayland Games. It's a phenomenal book, and it's well worth reading. It's £9. Pick it up. Also, pick up loads of World War Extra stuff. Like the new edition's coming. Get started now. The models are fantastic. Get them made and painted for when the new edition drops. And the models are up to 20% up to 20% off, and free delivery after £20, and you get an extra 1% off with the point system, which is really groovy. You also get there's also Forbidden Planet down there with comics, DVDs, mangas, etc. There is Audible for a 30-day free trial for new subscribers. If you want to support this channel, there's also my merchandise as well. That's down there. If you want to support the channel personally, sorry, computer bleeping. Pardon me. There is also Skyforge, good friend of mine. Give him a click on. Let's get him up the Google algorithm. I do not get paid by him, but I want my friend to succeed. And finally, Patreon, which I still need something to do. I'll probably just do credits right now, and then I'll work on something I can do with other people. Probably be a private Twitch stream or something, or a private YouTube stream for Patreon members. Just so we could just sit and chat for once an hour a week or something like that. And that's it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you all again in the next one.